We're now 1 month into the AUDL season, and so far no team has been as dominant as the Chicago Union. With ruthless efficiency and highlight reel flair, Chicago is now 4-0 and ready to contend for a championship. Tonight, the Union battle the Madison Radicals, who have their own championship tradition and hope to start their big doubleheader weekend with a marquee road win. July in the AUDL begins with Chicago and Madison next. We are set for Week 5 in the 2021 AUDL season, live from Chicago at Langhorse Field. The Madison Radicals, the 2018 AUDL champs, are 3-2 to start this season. The Chicago Union at 4-0, sitting atop the Central Division. Top two teams after a 12-game regular season advance to the playoffs. Madison with a couple big games this weekend to try and stay in the race. Chicago has been heads and shoulders the best in the Central Division so far. Good evening and welcome to Free Friday Frisbee, everybody. I'm Evan Lepler with the accomplished player and coach Tyler Kinley. It's so great to have you with us. And Tyler, there were a lot of expectations about the Chicago team, and so far they have matched them. What has impressed you the most about the first month for the Union?
You know, the Union have just played so sharp. Both lines, the O and the D line, they've started out games strong, and they've held strong throughout. They've talked about maybe a few lulls, but they have not seen the adversity that they might have expected, and that's the only challenge right now for them.
Through 4 games, they have not trailed for a single second. They've led, except for the tie that was 1-1 in their opener of the year against Indy. Other than that, they've led every other second so far this season. But the Madison Radicals have some great players, too, and Kevin Pettit-Scantling is the heartbeat of this team. He posted on social media this afternoon to expect something special tonight. What do you expect?
You know, just from that alone, it sounds like he's setting an expectation of his team to meet the expectation of the day. Again, we're talking about expectations. They're high for Madison. They're going to need to step up. We've seen them struggle a bit this season. They have a 2018 championship, and they're trying to find that magic again.
KPS, the league leader in blocks. On the other side, Pavlianis, among all the superstars for Chicago. He leads the AUDL in assists. He plays with a tenaciousness and a ferocity that helps set the tone for Chicago.
Yeah, Pavel just brings all the energy you could want from a person, from social media to on-field presence and leadership. I mean, the guy is someone that he's a natural leader.
Natural thrower, too. 22
Absolutely.
assists in their first 4 games. Ross Barker going against his old team tonight, and what is going to be an interesting evening of emotions here in Chicago, as there are plenty of former Radicals on this Union team that's getting ready to battle Chicago here at Langhorse Field. Tim DeBile, does he have the master game plan to go against Dave Woods and the Union? First time ever for Peter Graffi and Pat Schreiwise facing their old team, Union Radicals. Free Friday Frisbee coming up.
The playoffs make every day feel like a win, but with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings Free-to-Play Pools Playoff Edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day. Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes. And make it rain.
It's a picture-perfect evening for Ultimate Frisbee here at Elmhurst University in Illinois. Ultimate fans, you can play for free in the AUDL pool on DraftKings for a shot at $1,000 in prizes. Just answer the series of questions on the results of the second half, get enough correct, and you take home your share of $1,000. Download the DraftKings app today and sign up with a promo code AUDL. It's a little strange to see Try-wise wearing Chicago colors. His wife, longtime Madison resident, Georgia Bosher, great Ultimate player, asked her who she's rooting for tonight. She said, I don't know if I can root against the Radicals. We have so much Radicals gear through the years. Maybe I'll just stay quiet in the stands.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he blends in. I mean, it seems like from the games he's attended, he's fitting right in. But yeah, this is he's playing his old team.
Yeah, not a hard guy to fit into any offense that he wants to join. Let's take a look at our keys to the game tonight for both teams. The Chicago Union obviously come in at 4-0. The Madison Radicals at 3-2. The team hashtag for the Union is Play United. What does that mean to you?
Well, they have a ton of depth that they can work on, they can work with, and their ability to utilize everybody top to bottom, to find the roles and to stick to them and play, as they say, united, it's going to make them tough to beat. And I think that that's what they mean when they talk about that.
For Madison, we're hunting for heroes. And look, Peter Graffi and Pat Trywise have been some of the heroes for the Radicals in past years. Who are the new heroes going to be? That's what Tim DeBile and Jake Spiro and KPS, they're trying to figure that out. They got so many young guys with potential. This is the game maybe for one of those guys to elevate their reputation.
Well, I think that the narrative for them is that this is just an opportunity to do so. They have mentioned, Tim DeBile talked about the youth on the team, and it can be scary, but it's also, there's a vacuum of plays, and they can step up and fill them. And I think that that is the narrative that they want to have for this game going in. Let's make some plays. You got the stage to do it. Step up.
Chicago currently being introduced. Got a pretty impressive roster from top to bottom. I mean, you think about Kurt Gibson as kind of an afterthought on the Chicago team.
Unreal.
One of the great players in the history of the sport with all of his accomplishments at the professional level, at the college level, club, you name it.
And that's part of the depth that we're looking at with the Chicago roster. I mean, you're slotting him into a D-line. His resume speaks for itself. The guy's run some of the best offenses that you can remember. He's got enough championships to fill a locker, and he's just one of the many.
A big locker.
A big locker. That's right.
Well, there's a great crowd here at Langhorse Field. A few minutes late getting started. There was no travel issues tonight for either team. That has been a problem occasionally on Fridays, but not tonight. Both teams here in plenty of time. And I mean, look at this crowd. Great energy. I was a little worried about it on a Friday night. There's a lot of traffic. You and I were both in the heartbeat of the city earlier today, and getting out of it was a challenge, but we're here and a lot of folks have joined us.
Yeah, it's exciting. The weather's fantastic for the game. You could almost call it a thrower's wind. It's light. Sun's out. It feels comfortable and ready.
And now we'll pause for the national anthem. You saw Kevin Pettit-Scantling looking very focused and determined That certainly has been his style since he started, and especially since he appointed himself captain of this franchise in somewhat of a joking manner back in 2018. That was the year they won the championship, and he basically said, Tim, you're not good at speaking in the huddles. I'm better at getting the team fired up. I'm going to start speaking in the huddles. Tim DeBile said, okay. And the rest is history, and his leadership has been unbelievable. Here's what he posted on social media this afternoon, Tyler. We've been dogs, clowns, titans, and kings. That's been my life on the Madison Radicals. Despite the legend our win-loss record may show you, my spirit has been tempered not by our victories, but by the dozens of memories we fell short. Toronto, San Jose, Seattle, San Francisco, Dallas, Raleigh, Minnesota. My past is littered with the broken pieces of my heart left behind each time we lost. Despite that, I don't fear losing because I've seen what it does to me, to my teammates. We break, we rebuild, we emerge our truest and most powerful selves, and today I smile and see the faces of my teammates dripping with glee at the prospect of competing. Caution, there will be blood. How's that for a pregame speech?
Holy smokes. I mean, how can you not want to run into battle with him? That is something. I love it. You know, he's not a player I've played with, but I've really enjoyed watching him play, and he's someone that I can tell that I'd love to share the field with. I mean, he brings the same energy on field as the quotes he seems to bring off.
Kurt Gibson will launch the opening pull, and Free Friday Frisbee in the month of July is underway. It's great to have you with us. The Radicals on offense, centering to Victor Luo, and here's Dylan Power. Power, Luo, and Logan Pruce are the three starting handlers for Madison. Chris Weiland, the first downfield cutter to get a touch. Out there with Jack Kelly, Rami Paust, and Sterling Kanaki.
You know, to start this game, we weren't sure what we were going to see out of Chicago, but right to start, it was a junk. They broke up a pull play, and now they've fallen into a person defense, playing close here.
We've seen a lot of junk from Chicago defensively, and that's, in ultimate terms, I'm not being disrespectful. That's what they have shown from a strategic standpoint for much of the season.
Yeah, the junk is really talking about staying loose and taking away options, not playing person-to-person defense to start, taking up lanes.
And Rami Paust sees an opening through that double team, that split, and Jack Kelly has the opening goal. Solid poise on that first possession for Madison.
Yeah, you know that they came in expecting to see some of that looser defense, playing patient, taking what's there, finding the gaps, and they did so well. The interesting part is that when you run these zones, each team is looking for the gaps in the other. So the defensive strategy from Chicago here is going to look at to see what did they do there. It was short chippy shots. There were no big hammers. And now we've seen, you know, Madison saw that junk to come down, so they'll probably expect it more.
Rami Paust with his 12th assist of the season for Madison. And for Jack Kelly, it's his 12th goal. It's a big weekend for the Radicals. This is their 6th game of the year, so it's technically the midway point, and their 7th game of the season is tomorrow against Indianapolis. Here's the Chicago offense for the first time. Paul Giannis, Ross Barker, Pat Schreiwise, Jeremy Burrell, the 19-year-old phenom Eli Artemakis, along with Keegan North and Mike Pardo.
Chicago here starting with a side stack, opening up the entire open side of the field, letting their cutters do the work.
Pettit Scantling goes flying by, maybe drawing some blood as he laid up for the first time.
He wants it. He's trying to set that tone early.
Meshnick comes with a double team. Something Ross Barker's certainly seen before from his time with the Radicals. Floating that disc to Pat Schreiwise. Feet on the goal line, and he'll pick up the assist. Mike Pardo has the goal, and Chicago answers with smooth offense.
Very clean there, and I think one of the keys that we saw there was a huge yardage gain on an up line from Giannis. That's something that they're going to have to key in on and stop, because those are free yards, and him catching it going up line gives him an easy look downfield, a power position that he can either hit some, continue, or look cross field for a hammer. It's just, you can't give those up as a defense and expect to contain them.
Pavlianis is coming off a game in which he gained 767 yards, 452 through the air, or throwing the disc, I should say, and 315 as a receiver. One of the largest yardage games that we've seen since the league started tabulating those numbers.
Yeah, you know, those stats really start to tell a much better story than just goals and assists.
Tim Schock aggressively down, setting a mark on Luo, along with Jason Valley. This looks a little bit like a Madison zone, although it's more of a 2-3-2 than a 2-4-1. Swanson and Graffy, the two big guys, are patrolling the deep space right now for the Union. And Peter Graffy was such an integral part of the Radical zone for so many years. I mean, Pavlianis joked at the early Chicago practices. Peter basically said, "This is how we beat you. Stop doing this." Try to get them to learn Madison's secrets.
Again, from Chicago, we see a loose defense to start, to stop any movement. There's nothing downfield, but again, they fell into a person defense, and it cascaded from behind the disc.
Swanson goes bidding by and comes up empty. Dan Garlock, I make it Avery Johnson, was fouled, tripping over the bidding Drew Swanson.
I thought he was going to get that.
Yeah.
He was close.
He's got 7 blocks in 2 games. So he started the Minnesota game with a huge block to set the tone against the wind chill. Jack Kelly has 2 goals, Rami Paust has 2 assists, and the Radicals have 2 smooth holds on offense.
The Radicals used the break side there very effectively. You saw that little scuba over the top to open up the easy continuation. That's the key throw. They also used another scuba to open up that junk that we first saw. Attacking that break side is, I think, going to pay dividends, and that's going to be something that we'll probably see Chicago try to key in on from the mark and from downfield.
Obviously, consistency is the test of time, but just through a couple of points, I can say this Radicals offense looks completely different than they did 4 weeks ago on opening night against the Minnesota Wind Chill. It was a little windy that night at Breese Stevens Field, but that was a haphazard game that had 52 total turnovers in it, and both offenses were sloppy, and so there's plenty of time for this to devolve into that, but so far, Madison looks super comfortable on O.
That's the interesting part of a full season, is that teams are going to look different at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end. And this is a good time for Madison to be able to reset their mentality, reset their expectations.
That was also the first game that anyone had really played in over, a year and a half.
Absolutely. You know, they came in hungry, but they didn't come in with a lot of game experience the last year.
Good matchup right now. Pettit-Scantling chasing Shrywise. Certainly did that a bunch in practice through the years.
See a little physicality there. They're going to have fun with that.
Here's Jeremy Burrell, marked by another Radicals veteran, Tom Annan. Here's Shrywise with Pettit-Scantling on the mark. To Barker in the middle of the field. He had Keegan North going deep, but he holstered it. Instead, it's underneath for Jeremy Burrell.
A lot of downfield switching.
And that one is in the end zone. Keegan North milked it to the goal line and ties the game at 2.
I may be saying this a lot today, but there's another up line from Pavel. Getting open, getting the disc, and distributing.
Beg your pardon, I misidentified Jeremy Burrell. It was Kevin Herrera, who made his Union debut last week, played a really fine game against the Alley Cats. Chicago started that game with 5 consecutive scores last Saturday in Indy. Went on to win comfortably 28-20. Should have mentioned it when Madison went up 1-0 and 2-1. It was the first time that Chicago's trailed all season. haven't been broken yet to be behind, but
we'll see how many other firsts come out tonight.
you're making a prediction?
We'll see. I don't know if I can go that far.
Certainly these two franchises in different places right now. Madison trying to gain confidence. It's a young team. They certainly think they have a lot of potential. Chicago expecting that potential to be much more in the present. Bruce underneath for Johnson. Gibson bumping Kelly on the mark, who tried the inside flick, and somehow it's complete. It went right by Von Alan-Gielan for Chicago, caught by Rami Post, and he'll catch it back from Avery Johnson. And that is not how the Radicals drew it up, but it counts nonetheless.
It counts, but on that point, I'm starting to see Chicago look for their chances. You saw Kurt Gibson almost bump into the mark. It was actually him turning around and looking at the next option. All eyes on Chicago are up looking to hunt. Their defense is hungry. They look almost relaxed.
Yeah, Alan-Gielan got a piece of it right to Post. And then a quick little give and go with Avery Johnson.
I'm impressed with this Chicago defense. It's almost like they looked relaxed to start points, but the pressure slowly builds, and some of it may be them finding the matchups they want while creating a hesitancy to move the disc forward for Madison.
Despite that iffiness on that throw, Madison 48 for 48 passing to start the game. Chicago had completed 26 passes in a row heading into this point. There's contact downfield, and it is going against Chicago. So Giannis will march 10 yards the other way.
Contact foul on Chicago.
Giannis,
Loss of 10 yards.
his assist that tied at 2-2, his 285th career assist, and just his 47th AUDL game, averaging over 6 dimes per game. Now he's going deep, though. Giannis is in the end zone for the Union.
As I was about to say, we haven't seen a lot of deep looks. There's been a lot of pump fakes, bringing people under. There goes Pavel. Maybe he sensed it too.
There's certainly a lot of guys beyond Giannis that can throw. This guy, Eli Artemakis, Tyler, just starting at the University of Illinois, 19 years old, but has not thrown a turnover yet this season, and just plays with a confidence that belies his age.
Well, when you are young and coming up, sometimes there's a nervousness to do too much, and you want to do exactly what you know you can do, and sometimes those players become perfect. You know, they play within their role, but they do what they can do well, and we're seeing it.
And he's a product of Ultimate. Both of Eli's parents played, so he's been around the disc his entire life. 3-3, no turns. Midway through the first quarter, as we hear the blaring horn of the train going by, a few big Pavlianis Hucks away from the field. What do you see from this Chicago junk early in the point?
Well, you know, I think it's easy to think of Chicago playing a zone, but really it's not a zone at all. It's just something to stop and get them out of a play.
Sterling Kanaki's going deep. Sterling Kanaki unable to get there. And the game's first turnover comes with just under 5 minutes to play in the first.
That's tough. That's not what Madison wanted here. And now Chicago has an opportunity to get this break.
Kanaki's been a big target lately. 12 goals his last 2 games. But unable to accelerate and run that one down. And now Kurt Gibson, after the turn, is a tough guy to contain. Really, Gibson and Graffi working together. But there's also Nate Goff on this D-line, coming off the top play of the week in the AUDL. Here's Tim Schock, a college champion at Carleton back in 2017.
Wow.
And this shot from Goff looking for Gibson, and Logan Bruce gets a piece of it.
That's a fantastic defensive play. That's coming over his shoulder. He's got to find it. Otherwise, it's an easy goal, but kind of shorted it on that huck.
Madison, though, gives it right back. Bruce, too much heat. No one was really open. These are the points when both teams can get a little fatigued out there.
It's interesting to see this Chicago D-line play. When they started with the disc, you know, Kurt brings this level of composure, but everyone else seems to have it as well. They're looking for blades. They're sitting in space. They're not frantic.
Kanaki bids. Graffy centers it to Gibson. Poust and Kelly get the mark on, but Gibson calmly throws through the double team to Shock. And the first break of the night belongs to the Union.
31, Tim Shock with the goal.
I hope that doesn't tell a story for the rest of the game. Right there, we see Madison with some really unfortunate errors. I mean,
well, Kanaki was open here, but just could not get there.
He could not key. And in this, you know, the worry, I guess, about Chicago is that it's too casual for them. There's another of those turns. But here's that composure. He knows what he's going to do. But again, Chicago can't get comfy. They can't play casual. And I think that huck that they missed, it looked like, oh, we got this. We're just going to put it up. And that's not going to cut it when they get if and when they get to the playoffs.
Like Tom Cruise is Daniel Caffey and a few good men. Joe White thinks better with his bat. Joe White coming back from injury. Great pull by Chicago. Double team in the back of the end zone. Radicals not going to get out of trouble. Drew Swanson lays out for his 8th block of the season in just his 9th quarter.
This is a tough start. This is a tough start, but you got to hand it. That's a wonderful pull.
Shock floats it. It was intended for Valley, but it's caught by Swanson, and Drew Swanson has the bookends to make it 5-3.
And we see Tim Shock celebrating here. As a coach, you want to pull him inside and say, what are you celebrating? What are you celebrating with that throw?
I'm celebrating a score, Coach.
Yeah. They've got to be more crisp than this, but a goal's a goal in this game right now. That's 5-3 here.
Second goal of the year, but 8 blocks for Swanson, who's now a commuting player. Swanson lives out in Seattle now, and saying it was 118 degrees the other day. He's so glad to be here in the Midwest.
Yeah, this is a nice cool night. Sun setting. There's a light breeze. This is not 118 degrees.
In some ways, it prepared the Seattle Cascades for their 2 games this weekend. They're in Austin, Texas tonight, and Dallas, Texas tomorrow. Texas Heat in the Pacific Northwest this past week. All right, critical situation here for Madison. They got to right the ship and get back on track. The O prime line, as they call it, could not get the job done and prevent back-to-back breaks. So now this offensive unit's back out there.
Von Alleguilon is making his presence felt. He's all over the field. He's hunting. He's taking up lanes. If you're a thrower, you have to keep an eye on him and know where he is, because he may just pop up at any moment.
Kelly plays it back for Luo. The lefty flips it for Avery Johnson. And now Power. Dylan Power from Naperville, Illinois, not too far from here. Here's Luo. Scuba to the back of the end zone, and Jack Kelly has his 3rd goal of the quarter.
The lefty Luo Scuba has happened a number of times. It's opening up a lot of things. That said, Madison's really having to slice through this Chicago defense with some tight window throws, and they're going to need to somehow open up the field a little bit, maybe spread the offense out a bit, because a lot of these throws, especially in the middle third, they're tough. They're tough to find.
So that score snaps the 3-0 Union run. The hold that tied at 3-all, and then the back-to-back breaks. So if you're this Madison O-line right now, you've held 4 times in 5 chances, which isn't terrible. However, your D-line has not gotten a turn from the Chicago offense yet. Until, well, no, not yet, and Giannis got speared.
Ooh.
Not intentional, but certainly a foul on Nico Ranabat.
That's a dicey bid at best.
Good to see Pavel pop back up.
Contact foul on Madison.
Well, Pavel's going to be playing with a little bit of ferocity right now. I don't think he liked that.
And now they're going to stop the clock, and yeah, there should be 1 minute
We are resetting
on the
game
clock.
to 1 minute.
Running clock on whistles until the last minute of the quarter. I wonder if Pavel would look half as fierce without the eye black on his face.
I just like the extra stripes down the cheeks. It's a cheekbone thing.
Since his Colorado Mama Bird days.
That's
He's
right.
Been big on the eye black, part of his pregame routine.
That's a great look to open up the field.
Artemakis back to Shriwise, and here's Giannis. Pavel skipping into the lane and dishing it to Shriwise, who scores against Madison for the first time.
Madison, their defense is collapsing well, but they're still giving up a couple of these looks. It's like they may hesitate just at the last moment. Pavel doing a good job here. Chicago just looks clean. They look confident, poised, not worried in any way. I mean, it looks like they came into this game expecting to win, and the only thing they're going to have to battle is these occasional lapses in focus where they throw too casual of a throw. That's where we almost saw that turn.
Look at this. Giannis at 225 yards, 229 yards already, leading his team in both those categories, involved in 3 of their 6 scores. He signed a 3-year contract before this season. It was the first announced 3-year contract. Tampa Bay Cannon supposedly signed a couple of their guys to 3-year deals, but didn't make a big deal out of it. So Pavel said, though, he really thought that signing a 3-year deal made his intentions clear about establishing a culture in Chicago and letting everyone know about his commitment. That's another nice break for the Radicals. It's Paust. Johnny on the spot for the second time in the quarter. Now 10 seconds left. Radicals, can they get back within 1? 4 seconds. Luo, blade to the corner. That's well done to Chris Weiland with 1 second on the clock.
That's a huge point. I got to hand it to Victor Luo for this quarter. He has really been a great distributor. He's found things open. Lucky break there. One thing to note, the wind is picking up a little bit here. And things that pop up weren't at the very start of the game. It was very tepid in terms of any sort of breeze. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that here.
Luo has 26 completions, no turnovers, and just picked up his 2nd assist.
I think just the fact that he's throwing with his left hand here is opening up some windows that the Chicago defense is not necessarily expecting. And
Giannis has 1.4 seconds to get rid of this, and he does, but it's going to come up short of the end zone. So Giannis can't get it there, and I believe that was Dan Garlock who will get credit for the block. That's the first turnover technically for the Chicago O-line. It comes as the quarter expires.
Chicago starts strong again.
Well, the Union have the only breaks. They have 2 of them, but because Madison scores the final goal of the period, Radicals are only down 1. As we're done with 1 here on our Free Friday Frisbee Spectacular. 6-5, Chicago leads Madison.
every day feel like a win. But with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings free-to-play pools playoff edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day. Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes. And make it rain.
Well, some of the top defenders in the history of the AUDL are playing tonight. Peter Graffi has had a Madison Radicals logo by his name through his entire career until 2021. Graffi leading the league in blocks in 2014 and 2016. Andrew Meshnick, who's been part of every Radicals season, led the league in 2015. Of course, in the championship season, it was Sterling Kanaki who put many a defender on Kanaki Island over the course of the year. You may notice the numbers the last couple of years have gone down, and part of that is the style of play, and the games have been a little bit quicker, and there have been fewer games in the season. Part of that is getting blocks has been harder in the AUDL in recent years because the offenses have become that much more efficient.
Absolutely, and defenses have sometimes shifted to force other types of turnovers rather than relying on huge plays.
Chicago up by 1 to start the second quarter. Keegan North takes a shot into double coverage. Pettit Scantling read it and dangerously collided with Ross Barker. Tried to make sure he was all right. We'll see if KPS gets credit for the block there, but it is a turnover, and Madison has a chance to tie this thing up.
Gotta admit, I'm kind of shocked that that's the way the Union are starting this quarter. So far, they've been crisp. That's one of the first times they've connected with a downfield primary cut from Keegan North. He's been featured, but that's an errant throw.
The type of throw that Madison wants its opponent to launch.
Absolutely.
Because Tim DeBio loves to have help deep, as he did right there. Pettit Scantling peeling off. Garlock defensively in a collision. North bids into Ian McCoskey. The foul is called.
This is a great start for Madison. Get that early block, and they're already setting a good tempo here.
Tough grab by McCoskey, who's just 20 years old as well. Here's Josh Wilson, J-Dub they call him, one of the captains, and now Meshnick, just talking about his defensive abilities and really good after return through the years. One of the reasons the Radicals D-line has consistently been one of the best in the AUDL historically.
Here we see a big test of patience for this Madison team.
And not in yet. McCoskey gets the assist though, and the Radicals have tied it up.
If I'm going to give them any feedback right now, it's wonderful patience. Was that a perfectly crisp, clean offensive point for them to get that break? No. But they waited. They took the shots that they had. And if they continue to do that, I mean, that's basically what Keegan North didn't do. He took a shot that was a little dicey here. We see them make the play on it. It was short. The shape was too short. And Madison's defensive offense here, being allowed to stay on the field, get it done. You know, there's a level of trust there. The disc went to everybody. There was no holstering when guys were open. That's a great start.
I think if there's an area that Tim DeBio is particularly confident about with his team, it is the D-line's offense. Mishandled there briefly by Jeff Robinson handling the pull. Out there with Gibson, Graffi, Jason Valley, Nate Goff.
This is a D-line. Starting on out.
Tim Schock sending Nate Goff. He doesn't need to jump over anybody because it's out in front of him. Sam Kaminsky plays it back for Schock.
High stall count here.
Gets the reset for Graffi. And now Schock narrowly evading the bidding defender. And Jeff Robinson scores to put the Union back in front.
Interesting to see Chicago immediately put in their D-line. I mean, they're centering to Kurt. Vaughn's playing O. Goff's playing O. It's an instant call.
First point of the quarter took nearly 2 minutes, so it's a lengthy amount of time. And Madison's offensive patience after the turn forced that Chicago O-line to run around a little bit.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You know, some coaches have an immediate, you get broke, you put your D-line out there. Some coaches have a different system, but most coaches have something built in so that all the players know exactly what to expect.
Well, you can get in on today's action with DraftKings. Play free for free today when you sign up with the promo code AUDL. Just download the DraftKings app and make your picks on the result of the second half for your shot at $1,000 in cash. Hope you watched AUDL Weekly on Wednesday night. You can see the replay on AUDL.tv for this week's edition of Lepler's Locks. I'm making a return with a vengeance this week after last week, and we struck the two errant picks last week from the record because of the extenuating circumstances of Dallas's travel.
Of course, just strike them from the record,
You
right?
understand that.
Of course, yeah, right, of course.
Reasonable minds can agree.
Another really, really good pull from Chicago, setting up this junk again, slowly falling into a person defense.
So the junk is slowing Madison's offense down, but you gotta think Tim DeBile's not too disappointed in that, as Logan Preuss has to make a really tough catch to maintain possession.
There's been a few tough catches here.
Well, to beat a team like Chicago, you gotta make some tough plays. Madison has given a very respectable effort so far. Luo, nicely done. Little air bounce to Power.
I really like what Luo brings to this team.
He's crafty.
I think he's someone that they need to feed and rely on and boost his confidence to take over a bit.
Here's Kanaki. And his possession began with 9:19, so it's about a minute and a half right now. A little more than that. Madison doesn't need to be in a hurry. It's a nice throw again by Luo.
Absolutely, that opens up the whole side of the field, sets everything up. I mean, he's a standout to me right now.
Rami Paust has the goal, Kelly has the assist, but as often the case, the hockey assist, as we call it, from Luo was the throw that unlocked the defense.
Absolutely, and if you're Madison here, you're going to bring it over on the sideline and say we got to keep these short throws, especially early in the point, as focused as possible, because as those throw totals go up, the danger goes up a little bit, and any little mistake, that's a turn, and that's a backfield turn. If they can maintain their composure, if they can keep it clean back there, they'll continue to open up the field and be good in the red. I mean, the red zone there look good.
Sure do. They are 7 for 7 in the red zone so far. Paust involved in 4 scores, and this pull sails out of bounds, so Chicago will center the disc. By the way, I think if I'm going to refer to a lefty's throws unlocking the defense, I got to give credit to Adam Ruffner, who loved to talk about lefties and how they unlock defenses with their different styles. You wish you were a lefty, right?
I think everybody kind of wishes they were a lefty.
Giannis, maybe the most prolific right-handed thrower in the sport today.
From there, opening up Chicago's offense, that's the first time we've seen them run a horizontal stack, 4 flat across the field. It got them going, but we see immediately they're going backwards. They didn't have that continuation throw look downfield.
And Madison's doing some things downfield that are making Chicago take a beat. I don't know if they're confused yet, but they're taking a second to make sure as the Radicals defenders throw themselves around and try to switch and create mismatches. There's contact on the Radicals, which gives 10 free yards to Chicago, and Barker quickly resets to North.
Yeah, what we're not seeing as much of this quarter from Chicago is connecting one downfield throw with the next. They gain some yards, and then it distributes through a few handlers.
Around backhand, lost a yard or two to Schreiwise. And here's North again to Giannis. This is Burrell. Low laser, Barker. And right up the middle, jamming it in there to Pardo.
For your Chicago Union.
It feels like two boxers slowly feeling each other out with jabs. I mean, each one sort of testing the other. Are you going to be patient? Are you going to be patient? And any time either team hasn't been patient, they've taken a look that wasn't maybe within the system, it hasn't paid off for them.
Second goal of the game for Mike Pardo, who scored 70 goals in the 2017 season. And that did not produce a lot of wins for the then Chicago Wildfire. 4-10 that year. That was Pavel's first year with the squad. He led the AUDL with 85 assists, but his completion percentage was below 93%. And he was the first to tell anyone who asked, the stats are pretty meaningless and the season's a failure because we went 4-10. He's been building ever since that. And they've made gradual strides every year. The biggest stride coming before the 2021 season by adding Peter Graffey and Pat Treiwaz and Keegan North from Indy and Joe White, who we haven't seen on the field yet, but a guy that the Union are very excited about. Nice throw from Proust to Luo. Here's Kanaki and Paust. Nice throw and go by Rami Paust. He beat his man Kaminsky downfield on the release.
You know, we've seen the same offense from Chicago pretty consistently, and it is pretty organic. But when you run the same thing over and over, the offense starts to get to figure it out a little bit. And I think right now on this offensive point, we're seeing Madison get a little bit more comfortable figuring it out, being patient within it, taking their looks.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Maybe time for the Union defense to throw a curveball, because right now, Madison is seeing the pitch really well.
Absolutely. First quarter, the story felt like Madison was playing maybe a little hesitant. They're figuring out what to do, and the momentum, or at least the energy, felt like it was on Chicago's side. Right now, Chicago, they're not applying the same pressure, and that offensive point for Madison, I feel great. It looked like they were in control, and it looked like there were no points at which Chicago's defense applied pressure that could generate a turn.
Big first half for Rami Paust. He's got 3 assists and 2 goals. 210 total yards without a turn. Dishing that last goal to Dylan Power. All right, 8-all. Chicago had 2 breaks in the first. Madison has 1 break in the second. Giannis drops the hammer. And North swings it further near that Chicago sideline.
You know, both teams play somewhat of a similar style downfield where there's a lot of switching. They hand players off so they don't let defensive players guard people and run past each other. They'll trade players, but up front I think is where we see a little bit of the difference. And it looks like Madison may need to apply a little bit more pressure on these handlers because their movement is just a little bit too easy, especially with guys like Pavel and Keegan North controlling the disc.
There's definitely a wide spectrum of coaching philosophies defensively about a willingness to give up backwards throws for free. I mean, I talked to Boston coach Sam Rosenthal. He doesn't want his team to give up any free throws. Madison puts a little extra pressure sometimes on the guy with a disc, which leaves somebody open, and there's often a free reset. Chicago's offense didn't feel much pressure there.
A little bit of that has to do with the tenure of the coach. If they have years to build a team, they can sculpt their defensive strategy to what they want. Sometimes it's what you're working with. And I'll say some teams have some fantastic handler defenders, and other teams want to play a little bit more contained. It's the same with the size of your defenders, whether you want to.
You could see what Ross Barker was thinking right there. Just floated to that space.
The comfort, the comfort is casual. The casual comfort.
I think he was spinning the disc like a DJ right there, but needs some work.
Kicking out the jams.
Another assist for Pavel. It's his third. 25 now on the season for the guy that's led the league every year since 2017.
There we see the first time that Madison's really opened up this junk with a hammer over the top. And it paid off. I mean, they got a bunch of free yards.
Nice adjustment from Preuss. Gibson on the mark. Over to Johnson. Madison continues to play calm. We haven't seen that many shots. And this one lingering for Graffy, and it's incomplete. Oh, the Radicals know what that's about with Peter Graffy.
It just hung that much too long.
Quick timeout called by Chicago as Graffy gets the block. Asked him to Bile the other day, what's it going to be like going against Peter and Pat? And he said, it's going to be weird. You know, Pat perhaps a little bit more so because he was an original Radical, helped pick the 2013 team, was a captain every year after that. But
I can tell you, Tim's not liking that throw.
No.
That one is a heartbreaker because they've been playing so well, and then all of a sudden that goes up, and you could just feel the lack of speed, the fact that it's just hanging in the air. That's part of the beauty of Ultimate. The disc is just hanging. Something's going to happen. You know a play's coming. And Peter got there. Great play.
There's certainly a different feel to this season in a number of ways, and obviously the Radicals did not follow up their championship in 2018 with a successful 2019. They went 500. They finished 6-6 in a disappointing year. And yet, Madison still won in Chicago 2 years ago. In fact, Chicago has not lost. Chicago has not beaten Madison at home in quite a long time. Jack Kelly had a chance. He get his hand on the disc first? No. Graffy got a piece of it.
I think that was Remy Paust throwing that. They talk about backhands where you don't step through. That's basically a flick of the wrist. I think that accounted for the lack of speed.
Madison, just to finish the point, Tyler, has won 7 straight games at Chicago. Last time Chicago beat Madison at home, May 23rd, 2014.
Oh, here we go.
90 seconds left in the half. Chicago led by 2 at 5-3 and 6-4, but it's been a back and forth on the tie and the 1-goal lead ever since.
Madison applying good pressure here, but Chicago is finding some pretty elegant solutions. They're finding the open man, they're waiting, they're taking the throw.
Trywise was going deep for a moment on Pettit-Scantling, and the fan in me wanted the disc to go up. But Chicago in no rush. Well, here we go. Ross Barker with a couple defenders nearby, and it is incomplete. No foul call. Luke Marks, who's had an excellent start to the season for the Radicals. He's had at least 1 block in each of the Radicals' 6 games of the season. Unless they call this a foul, which it looks like they're going to on the second look. What do you think?
I'm a little surprised it's a foul, I guess. Maybe I missed it. I'm more surprised at the throw choice.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of Keegan North's earlier throw. Very blady.
Oh, is that clean? Is that clean? Timeout called for Madison. Ian McCoskey with a hand block.
I am surprised if that's clean. Oh man, that's one of those that it looked like it was still in his hand, but they didn't call it.
Less than 1 minute.
Wow. So where it looked like Chicago was on the verge of going back up by 2, now Madison has the disc with a chance to tie it. 36 seconds on the clock. A lot to break down there, but McCoskey gets the block on the mark. Straight up canceling Ross Barker's reset, just swatting it down.
Wow. I think everyone was surprised, offense and defense. This point is has some of the most drama we've seen of any so far. The Jeremy Burrell huck, shocking. Again, another one that, from a coaching perspective, you got to be kind of surprised. They're playing so patient, they're just moving the ball. All of a sudden, it's launched. Another turn, foul, comes back. Another turn from a great point block.
There have not been too many break chances in this first half. Chicago's 2 for 4. Madison is just 1 for 1. This is the Radicals' second. This is not even a break chance technically, because this is the offensive point. Chicago called a timeout earlier in the point. Point began with 2:57 to go. One
of the things I love about starting from a dead disc is you really get to see a defense's formation, and there we saw Chicago essentially is a 1-4-2. They have a one person, I believe that's is that Tim Schock on the mark, a wall of 4 behind him and 2 deep, and then it morphs as the disc moves and players move around.
Timeout called from the Radicals sideline again with 6 seconds on the clock.
Timeout Madison.
He got 2 timeouts a half, and he had one in his pocket, sensing that the Radicals weren't all that aware of the clock. It's interesting, there's only one scoreboard here, and it's off to our left, and the Radicals are going to the right. So if you're looking at the end zone that they're attacking, you can't see the clock. It's behind them. See what DeBile draws up here.
Yeah, we get to see what they both draw up. Again, we saw that 1-4-2 come out before. Do they stay in it? For the most part, Chicago has played their more loose zone. We've been calling it a junk for maybe the first half, the first third of the field, and breaking into man. Here they're already past half field. Will they start in person defense? And what's the formation going to be from Madison? It looks like they're almost in a vertical stack.
Well, this regardless of what happens here, this will be the first time this season that Chicago is in a close game at halftime.
Madison is loading the end zone already.
They got 6.2 seconds on the clock. Schock is on the mark.
Madison running 2 handlers in the middle of the field, or receivers, just 2 players in the middle of the field ready to maybe distribute into the end zone, and most everybody is deep.
Paust and Meshnik. It's Rami Paust with 5 seconds. Paust floats it to the end zone. The jump ball to take half is caught! Sterling Kanaki hauls it in, tumbling to the ground, and we're tied at the half here in Chicago.
What a finish.
Are you kidding me?
What a finish. You couldn't ask for something better. I'm shocked anyone came up with it. It looked like it floated forever.
Falling backwards, and he kept it off the ground. Yes, he did. Looked like he was surprised.
Everyone was surprised. It looked like he almost caught it, too. I think he gets his hand on it. Oh!
Way to stay with it, use the body, keep the disc off the ground, and Madison takes the momentum into the half. What a final point that included 2 turnovers, 3 timeouts, and Madison punches in the clean offensive hole just as they drew it up. Wow, Madison wins the second quarter, Tyler, and we go to halftime with a top team in the Central, not necessarily on the ropes, but feeling some pressure for the first time this year.
100%. And coming into the half, if you're Madison, you have seen some adversity and you battled through it. You tied the game up. It feels good. You got the momentum.
Kanaki ties it up at the half here in Chicago.
The playoffs make every day feel like a win, but with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings free-to-play pools playoff edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day. Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes. And make it rain.
We're tied at the half here from Langhorse Field at Elmhurst College. The Radicals and the Union living up to the hype, exceeding it perhaps, as we welcome you back to our broadcast location. Evan Lepler hanging out with Tyler Kinley. Great to have you in the booth for the first time, and we got a pretty good show.
I'm having a blast. I mean, we weren't sure what to expect coming in. You know, Chicago's been so clean. Madison's had some dicey games. We weren't sure I guess they weren't sure what to expect, but we got a game.
There's a game here. There's a pretty good game going on, too, in D.C. The D.C. Breeze and the New York Empire, 19-16 Breeze with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. This will be the first loss for the Empire since the 2018 semifinals. Remember, they went undefeated in 2019. There was no season in 2020. They're 3-0 through 4 weeks to start 2021. Daryl Stanley and the DC Breeze making a big statement if they can hang on.
Daryl has always impressed me, and I think he's making a case for him to be the best coach in the nation. I mean, what he's done with them, he's working with great pieces, but he's bringing even more out of them. And it's simply impressive. I mean, their performance against, I think, Boston was just dominant. And it's impressive. I hope they can hold out. It's becoming a great season.
I don't think there's any question the game we're seeing tonight, Chicago has more talent on paper. What has Madison done, and what credit would you give the Radicals' strategy to keep this as tight as it's been? And the Radicals have a chance here in the second half. That's all they can ask for.
Well, it seems like they're buying into the belief of Kevin Pettit-Scanlon. I mean, he said it. He said quite a statement to start the game, and you know they're living up to the expectations. It seems he set. I mean, they believe, and even when things get a little tough, they haven't stepped down. They haven't backed down. They're really stepping up well. They've had some errors, but in the face of that adversity, they haven't given up. And I mean, I think that's what's paying off.
Well, Russ Barker needs to play a different tune because the Union are not having the same success they've had their first 4 games. A bit of a miracle for Sterling Kanaki to close out the half, but the Radicals will certainly take it. What a way to finish that first half. 9-9 is our score. We'll take a quick timeout and then set up the Week 4 Top 10 that prominently features the Chicago Union. Big man Nate Goff, reminiscent of Bo Kittredge back in the mid-2000s. I'll tell you more about that in a sec. We're tied at 9 at the half here in our DraftKings Friday Spectacular.
every day feel like a win. But with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings free-to-play pools playoff edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day. Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes. And make it rain.
Welcome back to Chicago, where at the half, the Radicals and Union are tied at 9. This is week 5 of the season, beginning our second month after a thrilling June that culminated with some great games last week, including San Diego, Dallas. What a win for the Growlers out on the West Coast. They're in first place in that West Division. Plenty of top plays in that one. Of course, no one was better than Nate Goff for the Chicago Union. It's time for the Week 4 AUDL Top 10.
Bartoli trying to get into the end. Here's the deep chuck. They got 2 players. It's going to be Billy O'Brien. Go for it, laying out in the end zone, catching it. Billy O'Brien gets the goal. The end zone celebration.
Only one guy can catch it there. That's a great throw.
The year the Aviators went to championship weekend. Double team on the sideline, cross field, hammer is going to get blocked. Steiner laying out for the D.
Bullock wanted a ball. Didn't get it. Here's the deep hug from Lay. Tran is chased. Ivan Tran.
Just lined it up, Craig. I mean, he was waiting to bid on that.
McDougal's going deep and the throw's going up. Will it float enough? McDougal on his horse, bids. He's got it!
My goodness!
Sean McDougal for the Los Angeles Aviators going all out. Maybe make some room for that in this week's AUDL Top 10.
He cannot get more incredible.
Maine
Throws it back and it gets tipped up into the air and intercepted, and I believe that is a Callahan.
That is a Callahan. You don't see that very often. Chicago is fired up about that one.
Free Friday Frisbee Spectacular. Jay Frew ripping long. Slack was wide open. KJ Koo playing catch up, but Slack rises up just in time and then floats it to Henke, who's got it.
Gosh!
Kyle Henke, like he's diving into a swimming pool.
Well, Slack owes him one for that.
Mazer launches. A couple targets going deep, and it's Lewis there for the score. Chris Mazer is dialed in.
I mean, you look at his puts, and his players don't even have to work that hard for them.
Armor. Dallas on the march with Lewis. Helton calling for a travel. And the D on the sideline from Lally. Lay it out for San Diego to retake possession. Under a minute to play. 23 seconds left for Goose Helton. Goes for the backhand to the end zone near the sideline. He is inbounds, and the Growlers have the lead.
I don't believe it.
Welcome to Ultimate 101. Daniel Cohen here to take you through the basics of Ultimate and the AUDL, the American Ultimate Disc League. So Ultimate is a 7-on-7 non-contact sport played on a field 70 yards long by 40 yards wide, with end zones running 20 yards deep on either end. In the AUDL, the game is played on a football field, with end zones starting at each 10-yard line. The AUDL field is larger than a college regulation Ultimate field because of the extra 13 yards of width and 10 yards of length. So each point begins with the pull, which can be compared to a kickoff in football. The two teams of 7 begin at opposite end zones, and one team throws off to the other to begin play. Now the receiving team starts the point on offense. Their goal is to advance the disc down the field by passing from teammate to teammate until the disc is caught in the opposing end zone for a goal. Players can't run with the disc, and they have to establish a pivot foot before throwing, like in basketball. Anytime the disc hits the ground, is intercepted, or is caught out of bounds, it's a turnover, and the defense takes over on offense without any stoppage in play. At the college level, when a player has the disc, they have 10 seconds to throw as long as a defender is in their immediate area. This defender is called the mark, and typically they will count out loud starting from 1 all the way up to 10. If the person with the disc doesn't get rid of it in those 10 seconds, that's called a stall, and the offense turns the disc over.
A stall was called after the great catch.
In the AUDL, the stall count is 7, so players only have 7 seconds to get the throw off. Now traditionally, Ultimate is self-officiated. Play will stop for any foul calls, such as contact or traveling, which can then be sorted out by the involved players. If a player disagrees with the foul call, it's basically a redo, with the disc being sent back to where it was before the call. The AUDL is the only level of play that uses officials to call the game. For foul calls in the AUDL, yardage penalties are assessed on the offending team. Downfield picks, traveling, and pass interference are a few of the most common types of penalties. A big difference in AUDL versus non-AUDL play is the use of double teams. In the AUDL, double teams on throwers are completely legal, meaning 2 defenders can be right in the thrower's face trying to force a turnover. At all other levels of play, double teams are not allowed. Now another rule unique to the AUDL is the integrity rule, which allows players to overturn a call if the call initially benefited their team. For example, if the official calls a foul on a defender and the disc isn't caught by the receiver can invoke the integrity rule and say no, actually the defender did not foul them, so the play would then result in a turnover. Now college Ultimate is played to a score limit, usually to 13 or 15. AUDL games on the other hand are played with a time limit instead, with 4 12-minute quarters. At the end of each quarter, if the disc is in the air when time expires, the score will count if the disc is caught in the end zone. Hope this helped you learn a little bit more about Ultimate and the AUDL. If you want more AUDL action, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or check out our AUDL TV streaming platform to watch all the best games in Pro Ultimate.
Well, now we expect you all to be experts on this game, whether you're watching it every week or just seeing the AUDL for the first time. It's great to be with you, Evan Lepler and Tyler Kinley, from our perch here at Elmhurst University, home of the Blue Jays. And Radicals and the Union taking over tonight. Haven't called them the Wildfire yet unintentionally, and hoping I can get through the whole season without doing that, but it's always in the back of my mind that mistake might get made, because they were the Chicago Wildfire.
It's their legacy.
For so many years.
But now we have the Union. Play united.
They've got a new brand. That was the key to the game, and Pavlianis, I mean, his first half, Tyler, 31 completions without a turn, 247 passing yards, 3 assists, +4. Pretty standard Pavel half, would you say?
I would. I think he set a great tone to start the game. He got a couple up lines that really opened up the field, one especially. Also just sort of commanding from the backfield. He was not affected really by much pressure. He's set a good place for himself.
He's on his way to joining the top throwers in the history of the league if he's not already there. Only 3 guys in AUDL history have 300 assists. Keenan Plew, Jonathan Helton and Cam Harris. And Pavlianos is now 13 away. Pat Schreiwise a strong first half as well.
You know, with Pavel, sometimes teams put a guy in the spotlight, but the team is balanced, relies on a lot of people. I think that's somewhat the case for the Chicago team. But if you are facing Chicago, you do need to apply pressure to Pavel. It's clear what he does for them. I mean, the numbers don't lie. His presence on the field is obvious. And I think if you're the Radicals, you do want to somehow find a way to either push him backwards and not give these up lines, or at least apply some pressure so he has to work to get open.
25 assists now, including the 3 in the first half today, leading the league at the start of the week. By the way, quick update around the league. This is one of 3 games going on this Friday night. Seattle is in Texas. Get you an update on the Cascades and the Soul in a moment. But they did go final in Washington, D.C. And the New York Empire are unbeaten no more. D.C. Breeze knocked them off 20-17. So the Atlanta Hustle are the only remaining undefeated team in the Atlantic. And the hottest team, the D.C. Breeze, who would be 5-0 if not for a Jack Williams buzzer beater in Week 1, heading to Atlanta. Our Fox Sports Game of the Week next Saturday night, July 10th, from the ATL.
You know, from a fan perspective, what a bummer. I mean, they got knocked off their pedestal. From a coaching perspective...
You mean the Empire?
The Empire, yeah, excuse me. From a coaching perspective, it can be helpful. I mean, it's pretty undeniable that their roster is stacked. They have talent throughout. But having a wake-up call mid-season can be great. It can add that fire. It can create a much more successful postseason. The thing that challenges today's Union specifically is that they haven't seen as many challenges, and this is a great one that they're going into today.
Wouldn't it be something if 2 of the remaining 3 undefeated teams in the league went down tonight? New York's gone down. Now it's up to Madison. See if they can knock off Chicago. And look, when we talked to Dave Woods earlier this week, really the first thing he said when we asked him how things are going well. We haven't really been tested yet. I'm curious to see how we'll handle that opportunity when it presents itself. That opportunity is here.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things we talked about with him as well was everything's great when you're winning. Well, right now, you're in the thick of it. And as time progresses through the rest of this game, we'll see how it plays out. If it stays close, this is going to be the first time they're really tested. And we'll see what this Chicago Union team is really made of.
Madison begins the second half on offense. Top 4 receiving yard leaders in the game are all Radicals. All Radicals cutters. Kelly, Paust, Kanaki, and Weiland. Victor Luo had a heck of a half in the throwing department. 242 throwing yards in the first half for Madison. Adding more to it on this point. Here's Weiland.
It's clear just watching this start of this point that Chicago's defense may seem junky to start, may seem a little bit calm, but when they turn on, they are sprinting. They're taking their looks. They're going after this half.
Bruce, oh, what a catch! And then he rushed the throw, Rami Paust. What's the term that ultimate players like to say? Conservation of greatness there, the phenomenal play, and then the quick release turns it over.
What a heartbreak. What a heartbreak for that first point for Madison. They connect on that. It's a huge start. Now they're back on D.
Dealing with the Gibson-Graffy duo in the backfield. Madison gets the double team on again. Weiland and Luo set the double team mark. Chicago going backwards, and Dave Woods thinks it's a good time to take a timeout. It's an interesting call. Now you're left with one timeout left for the final 22 minutes and 22 seconds of regulation.
Well, if you could see, Kurt Gibson immediately puts up his hands basically with his body language saying, what the heck? Leave me on here. Leave this team on. We can get this done, but they're off. I think we're going to take another look at this turn. Wonderful catch here.
Just a little too quick. Kelly wasn't ready for it. He was open, though.
That was very awkward.
By the way, a new haircut for Dave Woods as of yesterday. What do you think?
It's sharp. It's something.
If you touch it, you might get your hand cut. So that you're right, it is sharp.
I can't talk too much. I just let these locks grow. So I'll let him do whatever he wants with his hair.
Well, he's been a really good leader for the Chicago team, stressing their 3 pillars of team culture, the 3 C's he calls them: competition, communication, and community. And he thinks those are the 3 things that will take Chicago to the promised land. And he's pretty frank about early in his tenure, a few years back, perhaps they didn't value competition the same way. Right now, they're very focused on winning, and they're not worried about hurting feelings along the way.
Giannis poised here.
That, by the way, was the first red zone turnover, the second red zone turnover of the game for Madison. They started 7 of 7. They're one of their last 3 in the red zone. Tough scuba there from Goff. Back to Pavel.
That's a nice little throw there from Pavel.
And he sees the field really well, doesn't he? Barker. Over to North.
It's interesting to see also how Chicago chooses to play through this zone. You know, there's really 3 ways to go through a zone: over, around, and through. They've primarily gone through, like we saw in that end zone possession, but a couple times they're starting to go over with a hammer look we saw. And it looks like through, where they really pack people in, is kind of surprising at times Madison. And it may be because this personnel is very comfortable doing that. I mean, Giannis likes getting in there. Here we see Barker getting in there, Keegan, North, comfortable in that small space. And when you can throw without hesitating, when you can expect and know what to expect from your teammates, it's very hard to stop in the small space.
Pardo's kind of made a home in the front of the end zone here, catching goals, finding a little soft spot in that Madison defense. His 3rd goal as Barker picks up another assist.
I think you said it right. They're finding the soft spots, and that comes from knowing your team, allowing other people to get the disc to where it needs to be, and just sitting in those spots.
Well, it's been a remarkably clean game, Tyler. There's still only 2 Chicago turnovers. Contact call on the mark.
I'm shocked I didn't see a short huck go up there. He had his man beat. And the one thing I think I'd be nervous about with Madison is if they don't take the looks that they know that they can hit.
And the Radicals did want to take some more chances today. Thought they had to. Part of the key to the game, hunting for heroes. They need some guys to make some big plays downfield.
Yeah, Brian Jones talked about this earlier, but there's a tendency after getting broken or after a couple turns to start to not want to take dangerous looks, but there's a certain amount of risk involved in every throw.
There. Dylan Power held on for a split second too long, and now Chicago. Well, Dave Woods let the D-line go this time. Got to think so. He doesn't want to use his last time out with 8 minutes to go in the 3rd. Plus, he's got plenty of capable throwers, including Jeff Robinson. Gets it right back from Drew Swanson, and he gets taken out from behind.
Man, this is a tough half quarter for Madison. That short field turn goes from a surefire goal to a break.
And now Graffy back to Robinson. Graffy, so poised in these situations for so many years. Drew Swanson fired up as the Chicago D-line converts.
Well, now it's time for Madison to step back up. I mean, I think we saw a little bit of this in the first half where things looked a little shaky. You didn't know what to expect, and I think they're going to have to rely on their resilience that they showed in that first half to say, you know what, things went awry. There are things we can't control. We can't get the disc back. We can't unstall call ourselves. So let's get back on the field.
Graffy to Swanson to punctuate the point.
Check out InnermanAngels.org today to learn more.
Drew Swanson from North Park, introduced to Ultimate as a college freshman after he quit the college basketball team that he had started to play with. And really a promising young defender. Not that young anymore. He turned 25 this past January. Compared to the young guys in the AUDL right now, Swanson is a seasoned vet, and he bids for another block.
Oh boy, Chicago is really setting the tone here.
Well, we're learning how they'll respond to a little first half adversity. Meshnik peeling off, and he got the disc a split second before Goff. So Andrew Meshnik adding to his career numbers, but the Union come up with a turnover again.
It's just a back and forth game right now. I mean, each team is coming up with some blocks. Meshnik, that was a hero block. I mean, that's wonderful D. And immediately another turn.
Valley back to Gibson, who's doubled. And Meshnik called for the contact.
This is a moment where things seem a bit frantic. Everyone's moving at a pace, maybe just a step too fast. And I think this is a good time to see that Kurt brings a patience to the disc, to the field, to his teammates. He's very calm.
Yeah, his heart rate doesn't get too high.
I mean, he's seen so many situations.
Looking for Goff. That's on the money. Charlie first to Nate Goff, and a 3-0 run from the Union to start the third.
That is a tough one to stomach for Madison. Man, Meshnik's block, I loved it. He just came out of nowhere, peeled off his man, took away an easy cut, got the disc back, and then boom, instant turn immediately after.
What about Swanson's block?
That's just a fantastic athletic play. I think the offender wanted a foul there, but man, there's Vaughn coming up big.
Like he always seems to do.
Vaughn's one of those players that comes up with big plays, and a lot of it's because he never, ever stops looking for him. I mean, you watch him play, he's always eyes up, always ready to spring.
Alan Gielan's had a remarkable career. 32-year-old out of Western Illinois. Living on the edge there, Madison. Radicals have not scored through the midway point of the quarter. 3-0 Union start to the half.
I think what we're seeing here is that Chicago got a taste of blood.
Yeah, they've turned up the defensive intensity in a big way. Taking advantage of the early miscue. Luo with that lefty scoober to try and right the ship to Kelly.
We need a scoober count for Luo. I mean, he's connecting with him in the end zone. He's breaking up the zones, the junk. It's proving incredibly effective.
Well, you can play free for thousands in cash all season long with the DraftKings free-to-play pools. Just download the DraftKings app today and use the promo code AUDL when you sign up. Next Friday night, our Free Friday Frisbee will take place in the Big Apple. The New York Empire coming off their first loss in something around 1,100 days. I got to check that math, but it's been a long time since August of 2018 when they last lost against Dallas in the semifinals. New York will take on the Philly Phoenix next week. Giannis ripping it deep, and Artemakis makes the adjustment perfectly. Not sure Pavel released that exactly how he wanted to.
Yeah, it came out odd, but it worked.
It did, because Artemakis made the play, and then Shriwise with a laser beam to the end zone. The first 0 point of the second half for Chicago, and they make quick work in less than 30 seconds.
And for Chicago, and I think for both teams, the first time we've seen a huck off the centering pass.
It was wide open.
There was so much junk this game. It looked like Madison came down more in a person defense, and they immediately took advantage.
And you can see Pavel's body language. Wasn't happy with himself, but the 6'1", 180-pound Artemakis made the adjustment.
And I got to hand it to Pavel. I mean, you know, was it pretty? No. Does he probably wish he threw a little better? Yes. But he recognized quickly a lot of those deep shots haven't been available because there's been so many people just playing back, playing free safety, and it opened up this time.
And we talk a lot about Peter Graffi and Pat Shriwise. This is not Ross Barker's first time facing the Radicals, but he had a heck of a career with Madison and went to the University of Wisconsin to be a wide receiver on the Badgers football team before he learned he had a heart condition. That's how he started playing Ultimate. Wanted to keep getting exercise. Yeah, we'll take a D1 athlete on our Ultimate team, the Hodag said.
Yeah, come on in.
Turned into a really great, committed, passionate player. Oh, goodness, Swanson hunting another. This is the type of performance, Tyler, that could propel Drew Swanson onto an AUDL all-defense type of team.
He's playing outstanding.
And his pressure. It's the third time tonight the Radicals caught a break, but then Luo overshoots Kanaki on what looked like the right choice.
You know what's so tough, and yet looking back, if they drop this game, Madison's going to look back at this game and know where the turns are coming, and then they can correct them. I mean, that's the nice and the frustrating part. Right now, the misses are so small. I mean, Luo can make that throw. The end zone miss that they had, that's they can get that back. The ship can be righted, but for this game, it's got to be righted right now.
Madison already has more turnovers in this third quarter than they had in the entire first half. That loopy throw creates hard contact, and you don't like to see it.
You don't like to see it at all.
Swanson got drilled by Kanaki.
That's a really questionable bid at best.
He's just trying to make something happen. Throwing the body around, and hopefully Drew Swanson is all right.
You could see, I think he looked at the end and knew he wasn't going to get there and tried to pull up a bit, but man, that's a lot of man to hit another man. You hope he's fine here. Oh boy. Hopefully it's just a sort of a deep bruise.
Swanson's the only guy in the game with multiple blocks. He's got 2. He's also got a couple goals. He's only 2 blocks, or now 3 blocks shy of the league leader, Kevin Pettit-Scantling. He's 1 tonight, giving him 12 for the season. KPS is coming on the field for the 1-for-1 sub.
Penalty on Madison.
Not sure if they called that a regular foul or an unsportsmanlike foul. I think they just called it a regular, meaning it's just the 10-yard penalty.
Madison's cheering their team on here to get this turn.
I mean, it feels like the result is hanging in the balance right here. Chicago extends the lead to 4. And yes, there's a full quarter to go. That throw snagged by Blaze, and now it's Valley.
Chicago's doing a good job of using the entire field here.
And there was contact in the middle of the field, and it's going against Peter Graffey.
Wow.
Graffey called for the foul on Kanaki. Kanaki's in the middle of everything here, just like he was on opening night against Minnesota. Double team. Graffey pivots through it. Robinson rifles it, but Luo up to the task.
I think that's the third Blady Huck we've seen. It just seems like if anything's not in the system, that's it right now for Chicago.
Can hear Dave Woods saying on our next conversation, just the unforced turnovers are the only times that we're getting in trouble. This is trouble.
And basically just stop throwing that to start.
Tough grab there by Kanaki, and the disc that was floating a little high from Paust. Back to Paust, who launches, looking for Pettit-Scantling. Shock there defensively, but Pettit-Scantling rips it away. KPS doing special things.
Holy smokes. He landed like a ton of bricks, but an extremely athletic ton of bricks. Man, what a catch.
He had something to say to Tim Shock after the play, and the official looks to have called an unsportsmanlike on Pettit-Scantling for his reaction. What a wild point. It does bring Madison back within 2 on a huge grab by KPS.
You know, maybe in the booth it's hard to tell, but I gotta say, a lot of these hucks are not coming out the way that the throwers intend. You saw Pavel's huck turn over, saw a lot of these really blady hucks coming from both teams really in there. None of them come out and sit flat for very long. I don't know what's going on.
And Tim DeBile going over to tell Madison, or tell his captain, KPS, unbelievable play. Got to maintain the emotions. Now Chicago's going to pull from the back line of the end zone.
1 minute, 30 seconds left to play in the third quarter. Let's go Union.
It's a tough place to start because that is a momentum changer for them.
Well, the Radicals have scored the last goal of each of the first 2 quarters tonight, which is one of the ways that they're still kind of within striking distance, despite the fact that Chicago has 5 breaks in the game and Madison has just the 1. Chicago's O-line has been excellent. And this is just their second O-line turnover of the entire game. This is Madison's second break chance.
The commentator's curse. As soon as you say they're playing great, of course, we see an uncharacteristic error.
Yeah, I wish I had that power. I'd use it more often. Chase Marty back to Josh Wilson. That's a dangerous throw, but it finds the target.
That's what we're seeing a lot of is for Madison to gain these yards downfield, they're having to throw into tight gaps.
Marks to Garlock. Back to Marks, downfield. Double team comes. Marty, Garlock. Double team, similar to what we saw in the final seconds of opening night. But he pivots into it and draws the contact. And Garlock obviously had the disc in his hands for a pivotal play in Madison's season. Other than that play, Tim DeBile says he's been playing great, and he makes the right choice there. And all of a sudden, the Radicals are back within 1.
Huge point. Absolutely pivotal point. I mean, I don't know if you felt it, but watching Madison's right there move the disc forward, it looks a bit disjointed. They don't exactly look comfortable, but I think they're playing through it, and they're being patient. It's exactly what they need.
Right here at beautiful Lane Horse Field.
You can't call it perfectly fluid. You know, each pass looks like it's close, and you know, hat tip to Chicago for making them work, but that patience is key. It's paying off, and we got a close one again.
Radicals sure have been opportunistic, huh? They're 2 for 2 on break chances. I mean, Chicago's not bad, 5 of 8. But the end of quarter situations have been Madison's blessing, there's a whistle on the pole. Was it offside, or was the signal for readiness not given and we're just going to go back and pull again? I think it's the latter. They put 17.1 seconds back on the clock.
Well, here's another potentially huge end of quarter situation. You know, of note, on that last point from Chicago, they actually ran a vert stack. So they're employing a little bit different look, and that's where we saw that uncharacteristic turn come from.
Regardless of what happens here, Chicago will receive the disc to start the fourth. Will they be up by 1 or by 2, or could Madison potentially tie it up? Giannis gains some big positive yards. Gives it back to Burrell. Giannis with 2 seconds and gets the score on the under. Keegan North timed it perfectly. 0.4 seconds left.
Really wonderful job by Pablo Giannis of taking what was given, and very frustrating job by the Madison defenders to give that up. I mean, he's just taking yards.
I mean, as a defense, you think they're not going to be able to work it that close to the end zone in that short amount of time, but that's AUDL experience right there from Giannis.
It is.
He's had a lot of these opportunities to hone strategy and level of comfort in those high-stress, clock winding down situations.
And you know what sort of salt in the wound is we saw, watching Madison warm up, they run a drill that is stopping the continuation. When the handler throws, stopping them from getting that immediate disc back.
0.4 of a second on the clock. Got to release this really quick. He didn't get that off in 0.4 of a second. We'll see if they count this. It's not going to make the end zone anyway. So, oh, it's deflected, and it finds the ground. Goodness. Jacob Wam had that wild play a couple weeks back against the Alley Cats, trying to replicate that here, although I'm not sure Post got the throw off. Anyway, for the first time, Chicago wins the end of quarter situation. They win that third period 5-3, and they'll take a 2-goal lead as we head to the fourth here in the Windy City.
The playoffs make every day feel like a win, but with DraftKings, every day is a win. Courtesy of DraftKings free-to-play pools playoff edition. Simply make your picks on the featured game of the day. Answer questions like who will cover the spread, which team will score first, and which players will have the most points. If you get enough right, take home your share of $250,000. So download the DraftKings app now. Use the promo code to play free for a share of $250,000 in prizes. And make it rain.
Well, an entertaining bicycle race. Tricycle race, actually, here after the end of the third quarter. Chicago leads 14-12. 12 minutes remaining on the clock. Here's what's coming up the rest of the Week 5 schedule. Tyler, you and I will head to Indianapolis tomorrow morning for the Radicals' second game of their doubleheader weekend.
It's going to be exciting. That's for sure. We're going to see what Madison has today and how they roll into tomorrow. Do they find the strength this quarter to take a W in, or do they go in with a tough one today.
Seattle Cascades in Dallas tomorrow. Seattle's in Austin right now. Currently the Soul have a 19-14 lead in the fourth quarter. So Austin looking to bounce back after losing in Seattle last week. Bump foul called on Pettit Scantling.
Madison is looking to really clog the lane from the side stack of Chicago.
Keegan North going deep. He beat the defender, and the disc is inbounds and placed perfectly in that back corner.
We have not seen too many away throws. A lot of the goals so far have been working the disc up patiently and scoring in traffic. But here, one of the few. It's a great shot. And again, a lot of the throws we've seen, they've been sort of bladey. This is one of the first with a really nice shape. Very easy catch.
I was chatting with Dave Woods before the game about Kevin Herrera, who made his Union debut a week ago in the 8-goal win over the Alley Cats. Said he's a real solid pickup, has unconventional throws. If we can rein him in a little bit, he's really effective working with Pavel on the O-line.
That's also one of the first times we've seen Keegan strike deep. He's been a feature as one of their primary cutters, but the clogging of the lane from Madison's defense has sort of plugged up those initiating cuts.
Everyone that participated this evening.
Will the Radicals O-line become a little bit more aggressive here out of a sense of urgency? It's a nice leading pass from Weiland to Paust. Hammer to Kanaki. That goal took 25 seconds off the clock, so I think the answer is yes, they will play a little bit faster.
Yeah, that was a really nice flow from Madison. It was one of the first times we've seen them continue every single look downfield. They haven't had to stop and go backwards. Here the hammer hung long enough for him to walk it off and not even watch to see it get caught. It's always kind of fun.
As we kick off the fourth quarter, we'd like to announce that all
Should mention Drew Swanson was on the field that last point for Chicago, so that's really good to see after he got drilled by Kanaki late in the third.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You never like to see anybody injured, and you hope it's not just adrenaline he's playing through here.
By the way, the Chicago Union were #1 in the league in turnovers per game, fewest turnovers per game, averaging just 9.5 turns per game. At the moment, Chicago has only turned the disc over 5 times, for the game.
Chicago's playing well.
And no, I was not trying to jinx it there, but you know,
yeah,
we're always trying to get a closer game. So if I have that power, I might as well use it. Chicago has sensed well that for much of the night, Madison has kind of wanted the deep shot to go up, and they've been patient and made some good cuts from the handler space, and Keegan North hides the disc under that Discraft sign again, scoring his 3rd straight goal.
Yeah, Keegan is starting to find his rhythm here. I think one of the things that we're seeing from guys like Keegan is that in individual one-on-one situations, they can really start asserting themselves for Keegan specifically. But I mean, we're kind of seeing it across the line. Madison's junk doing a good job of slowing things down, but once they get to a person defense, the Chicago depth is starting to pay dividends. And once the offense spreads the field out a little bit, they can't switch. Chicago looks clean. I mean, they look like they're having their way.
Reminder, you can play free for thousands all season long. If you haven't done so already, go onto the DraftKings app, use the code AUDL, and get ready for next week. Philly at New York, Friday night from the Big Apple. We're back in the Atlantic Division next week, Tyler. Philly, New York, and then DC and Atlanta. And what will be a battle for first place between the 4-1 Breeze and the 4-0 Hustle.
Watching Madison's offense here, at the beginning of the game, their stack started. Oh boy.
Audl read the play, saw it the whole way, and picks up another block.
You know, the point I was starting to make is that at Madison's offense, their cutters are starting to drift deep, and we see the effect there. It leaves poaching defenders way out in the middle of throwing lanes.
Here's Graffy. Shock. Almost ran over Kanaki, tried to hold his ground like a basketball defender taking a charge.
Shock thought he threw the goal there and was almost ready to celebrate.
D-line guys love to celebrate, and they'll have a chance to do it as the lead swells to 4. It's the largest lead of the night for Chicago with 8:47 to play in the 4th. Vaughn Alan-Gilon, how many times on an ultimate field has he made something special happen? He's got the blockchain on. 2 Ds tonight for Vaughn.
And they're pumped about him. I mean, Vaughn's a guy that when he makes a play, it just brings the whole team up because everyone's rooting for him.
It was a nice athletic play, but it was more the sense of anticipation and reading it, poaching off his man.
I mean, some players have an incredible anticipation, some players have speed, and when you combine them, that's where you get a special player like Vaughn. I mean, he puts himself in the right spot, and his closing speed is extremely high.
All smiles right now on the Chicago sideline. I don't know if I've asked you this directly. We just saw a grinning Nate Goff. What was your reaction when you saw the Goff catch against Indy last week going up over the Alley Cats early in that game?
Well, it's funny. I was watching that game live, and when it went up, you know, you could see him setting that up. And live, the funny thing is Goff, you almost come to expect it, but the angle didn't do it justice. Once you saw a couple replays, you realized how high he got.
Nico Roundabout scored that goal after just a 32-second possession. So Madison strikes fast to get back within 3, keeping 8:18 on the clock.
Yeah, you know, I hate to miss the action here. I mean, I was barely saying anything, and Madison scored immediately, and that's exactly what they need to do. I mean, 14-17, 8 minutes left. That kind of quick goal is exactly what they need. They have to be happy with that.
Correction, number 19, Nico Roundabout on the goal.
Josh Wilson with the pull.
Unfortunately for Madison, the pulls have been a bit of a differentiator. Some of the first quarter and first half pulls from Chicago really pinned Madison. I think it generated one of their breaks, or one of Chicago's breaks here. That pull, unfortunately, leaves a lot to be desired.
Trywise will initiate this possession.
You don't see a lot of floods from either team because they are based on a person defense, but that time we saw Madison come in a rare, just straight person-on-person defense.
When you say flood, what do you mean?
What I mean is you're stacking everybody on one side of the field. They all vacate that side of the field so that one player, usually from the back, remains open, and that's what we saw there.
Strategy we see from a lot of teams over the course of a season. Pardo's low throw saved by the bidding Barker. Now Trywise. Pardo looking for the open man. Eli Artemakis has another score.
I wonder if KPS pulled up from that potential bid. I mean, I think he could have looked to make a play here.
I think he realized it would have been dangerous.
I think he did too.
7 minutes left to play.
A rare person defense point for Madison, and I think that's the first time I've seen Chicago's offense going directly against something that they knew had no junky stuff whatsoever, and they used the entirety of the field. They spread it out. It looked fast and crisp. I mean, I think for the Union, this has been a good game to learn what they can rely on. I mean, their individual strengths are huge, and where they need to pull back. I mean, some of these huck looks have already gotten punished, and they'll continue to be.
Rami Paust catches another 10-yard under. He might get a 300 game by the time we're all said and done. This would put him over 300 in the air, and Weiland comes down with it in the end zone. So Rami Paust has not been perfect with his throws tonight, but that one was beautiful.
If you're the coach of the Madison Radicals, you love that throw, because up until now, I've just watching from the booth, I've seen them look that throw off a number of times. They're pump faking it, they're going to the middle of the field and back through the teeth of the defense. Here, he puts it out. It's a fantastic throw. The defender was trailing. The cut was from very, very shallow, so you could read it the entire time, and he put it out in front of him. There's a lot to build on from that.
Paust now at 333 throwing yards. All three of the main Radicals throwers, Paust, Preuss, and Luo, are over 300 yards throwing in the game. 7 assists for Rami. 24-year-old from Madison, played at Wisconsin. Played a few games in 2019. Are very excited for what he would mean to the squad in 2020, a season that never happened, obviously.
Pavel's starting to assert himself on this point. It's one change to his game this half specifically is after he's receiving the centering pull and throwing downfield is immediately chasing it. There, he chased it, didn't get the dish directly from the receiver and continued downfield, and then ate up a bunch of more yards as a receiver.
Foul call there. Marks on Pardo.
Penalty on Madison. Chicago advances 10 yards.
Pardo, a little ambitious with that release, trying to get around the mark of Marks.
Madison takes over on offense.
So the Radicals perhaps with a chance to squeak back within 2 here. Around 5.5 minutes to go. There's still time.
That's a crucial turnover from Pardo.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got Pavel in the back as his reset.
On the field.
They've been very, very clean around the end zone, and there he decides to go for the around break. And, I mean, the end zone is so big, you don't need to take any unnecessary risks around the end zone. I mean, you have so much field to work with. It's kind of a shock, and it's an easy one to point to as a coach and say, we can't have that.
Well, for so many years, Madison dominated this division. I mean, 2013, 2014, Chicago was their most fierce adversary, but Madison always won the big games. Finally got the championship in 2018 league-wide, dethroned by the Alley Cats in 2019. We'll see the only 2 teams that have ever won this division tomorrow night in Indy. But Chicago certainly considered the favorite this year because of the players that they've put together. They are 5-29 away from getting to 5-0, but obviously still work to do.
Well, it's work that can be done, but they have a lot of it to do. There we saw sort of a shocking turn from Pardo, and we'll see what comes of it.
Chicago with the shock Gibson double team on Luo.
This is the strangest offensive setup. That was almost like an inbounds play from basketball, but it worked.
Paust for the Scuba to get it over that first line of defense, and now Madison's off to the races.
At some point, I want to go back and look at that again, but here we have another huck that really blades.
Gibson gets a piece of it, and that was enough to prevent Luo from making the catch.
Extremely ambitious, over-ambitious.
Shock had Goff going, but decided to holster it. First hangs on, one of the captains of this Union team. Reset to Graffy, tumbling side by side with Preuss. Those 2 guys played D-line together with Madison for a long time. Shock swings it. Full contact there. The two number 21s. Johnson crashing into Cal Tornabene.
There's some real ferocity throughout this point. Madison clearly wants it back.
I mean, right now, Chicago does not need to be in a hurry.
They do not.
Every completion is a good thing.
And you can feel it. They are calm.
A pick was called, I believe, after the release or not?
You know, the tough part here is that Madison is trying to generate pressure and occasionally throwing a double team on, but the double team is amongst two players and it's leaving the dump wide open. So Chicago's handler, who's being double teamed, they don't have to put a difficult throw to their nearest receiver there, who's left completely open with no help. And you can see it. I mean, they're trying to generate pressure, but they're leaving a release valve that kind of negates the purpose.
Not sure what the stoppage is here. Officials
We are resetting the clock to 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
reset the clock to 3:30. Suppose that's the right thing to do. Radicals should not be penalized because the referees took an extra 20 seconds to sort things out.
Kurt Gibson getting a little handsy. I think he felt the defender might have been putting his hands on him, so he decided to give it right back, and he gets called for it.
Certainly doesn't shy away from a little hand fighting every now and then.
No,
Gibson's going deep.
Yeah, I mean he's annoyed, and he said, "Yeah, I'm going."
Yeah, look at the speed from Gibson coming underneath. It's slightly off our screen.
Yeah, Gibson's cut opens up Vaughn here.
Like the fastest I've seen Kurt run all season.
Absolutely, it's the first time I've seen him really head downfield and attack.
And yet Chicago continues to work it around in the backfield, swinging that one to Goff. Alan Gilon's going deep, but reset for Shock. The crowd really wanted that one to go up. Wanted to see Vaughn do something exciting.
You know, one of the tough parts with this game is that occasionally each team will fall into a person defense, but the handlers aren't necessarily aware. And so things that open up as a downfield cut, they look off and go immediately or maybe too early in hindsight to their reset.
The completion percentage continues to rise, and it was already around 98% when this point started. And there was an unsportsmanlike conduct call away from the play. And I think it's on Kanaki. And he may have been ejected from the game.
Well, I saw some jawing with Kurt Gibson there, and you don't know who started any of this. But the temperature's rising on the field here amongst the players. I mean, I think the frustration is clear from Madison. They're trying to raise the intensity. They're trying to generate something.
Something doesn't add up because Chicago marched backwards as if the call was on them, but it looked like Kanaki was escorted off the field.
Each team seems to be escalating things.
Yeah. I mean, these two teams meet again a week from tomorrow at Breese Stevens Field. And again at the end of the month on Friday, July 30th, 4 weeks from tonight.
Well, I think for both teams, the beauty of this game is that, I mean, it feels like it's taking on the air of a playoff game. I mean, both teams are going at it right now.
Well, Madison entered tonight really knowing that this game and this weekend is so critical for their long-term hopes. Lose this one and you're basically in a position where you have to run the table more than likely to get to the playoffs. They've already lost twice to Minnesota. This would be one loss to Chicago. Any other loss would likely be the end. Here's Goff going deep. Jack Kelly creates some contact and knocks it away, and there's no call. Goff will set the mark, but I mean, this point has gone on, Tyler, for more than 6 minutes. Radicals take the timeout with 37 seconds left, but by and large, there's just not going to be enough time for Madison. And it was 18-15 when Paust hit Weiland on that quick, deep shot hook. There have been a lot of different opportunities. For a moment, I thought, are we going to see something crazy with Nate Goff again? I think we're going to think that every time Nate Goff goes deep, because last week against Indy, he gave us one of the plays of the year. Well, here's what happened last week at Graham Park, where we'll be tomorrow.
Well, if you're matched up against anyone and the disc's in the air, the last person you want probably throughout the entire AUDL is Nate Goff. I mean, do your best and he's going to do something like this.
Whoa. That on-field angle, maybe the best of all.
It's just unbelievable. And as a defender, you know, the disc isn't even in a position where you can start to make your run up, and he's already in the air. You know, that last point, or I should say this point, it feels like forever. It's clear that from a coaching standpoint, they wanted to hold on to the disc and be willing to go backwards. They actually overloaded the downfield and made room for just one reset, making it incredibly tough to have any help defenders around the disc.
No such thing as a three-point play in the AUDL. Bodies colliding, and Graffy swats it away. Kevin Pettit-Scantling slow to get up. KPS getting checked on by his old defensive buddy. Just an awkward landing for KPS. Not anything dirty from Chicago. He just threw his body around and hit the ground hard.
I mean, he's putting everything on the line. For the second time, he takes a tumble from elevation. And that looked painful.
22 seconds on the clock, which stopped when the disc went out of bounds. 4th of July weekend has begun with early fireworks here. Friday night fireworks in Elmhurst is apparently a thing.
With a literal bang. We're hearing them in the background. We're seeing them.
Few completions, and Chicago will improve to 5-0. Graffy, the former Radical, gets it forward, and that is gonna do it. Swanson doesn't let it fly. He'll hang on, and the Union handle the adversity. Credit to Madison, the Radicals made them work for it, but Chicago, too tough down the stretch. They win it with defensive intensity in the second half, 18-15 over Madison.
Chicago stepped up, and they needed to. I mean, credit to Madison for pushing them here, never backing down, even in the face of a couple of really kind of heartbreaking moments. But the benefit to Madison here is you can look back and say we can get those back pretty clearly. I mean, there were some mistakes that you know you can build from. It's not something that's, you know, not solvable here. However, it's another L in the column, and they got to answer back tomorrow.
How about those numbers for Pavel? 684 combined yards and no turnovers on 51 throws to lead the Union tonight.
You know, Pavel really showed up today. They needed a good performance from him. The disc didn't move downfield, straight downfield as much as it might in other games. But he ate up yards. I mean, it's clear from the numbers, but even on the field, the yardage he was getting was not just basic. I mean, he was getting big upline gainers and opening up the field really well. Other teams are gonna start keying in on him because they see that kind of performance and the effect it's having.
Well, Chicago appreciative of its fans, and in a weird way, Tyler, I think the Union are appreciative of the effort the Radicals gave tonight. And I mean, Chicago's a better team for experiencing the adversity and the battle that the Radicals push them into, especially when you look at Chicago's upcoming schedule. At Madison next Saturday. They're home from Minnesota on the second day of a back-to-back on Sunday, July 11th. Then they got Indy, Minnesota, and Madison on the road to finish the month. Chicago's undefeated 5-0, and they're certainly the favorite, but they had to work for it tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, Chicago can't ask for a better test. They're going to want more of it, but they also can walk away winners with that momentum. They came in, they got what they wanted.
One undefeated team went down tonight, but not here in Chicago. That was the New York Empire, who lose for the first time since championship weekend 2018. The defending champs knocked off by the DC Breeze in DC. Here in Chicago, the Radicals gave the Union one heck of a battle, but in the end, the blockchain and Pavel Power wins it for the Union. 18-15 is the final. Union over the Radicals. For Tyler Kinley, Evan Leffler saying good night